is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Game Informer Show, a weekly podcast covering the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for discussion about the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I'm your host today, Alex Van Aken, and I am joined by Brian Shea. How you doing?
I'm doing so good. You appear to be sleepy.
I am.
I think I am finally back to my normal self, because there was a stretch there at the end of Summer Game Fest into like yesterday that I was just a shell of my being. But now I think I'm back.
I'm still a shell, but you know, we rally, we rise above, rise against.
We give it all.
Yeah. Rounding out the show today, we're joined by Charles Hart. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I got home late Tuesday night, and then I slept for 10 hours, and so I'm back. I'm back in business.
That's awesome.
Boss Baby back in business.
Whoa.
I think that's a show.
Boss Baby 2 back in business.
Maybe. I think so. There's also a like Boss Baby Netflix show, but I don't think that's what it's called.
Probably
not
canon, right?
That's in the Boss Baby multiverse.
The Boss Baby multiverse.
The Boss Baby CU, the BBCU.
BBCU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, listeners. We're gonna be talking about all of our time at Summer Game Fest. Oh my God, I gotta stop yawning.
Goodness.
Let me take a sip of water. Hold. Okay. That's going to keep me awake. We went to Summer Game Fest in Los Angeles this past weekend, and we played a lot of games. We watched a lot of games, and we met a lot of the people behind those games. And we're going to talk about it today. We're going to go through our hands-on impressions of several games. Some of them are still embargoed, but the ones that aren't, we'll be discussing on the show. My wife is calling me mid-show. I'm just texting her, hey, I'm on a podcast. Love you.
Off to a great start here, by the way.
Yeah.
And we're also going to be talking about some highlights. If we want to go through, you know, highlights from Xbox Game Showcase, Ubisoft, all that. It'll be a fun show. But what do you guys want to start with? What do you think? Should we go through highlights of the showcases? Do we want to just dive into it? How about we just talk about what it's like going to Summer Game Fest play days? Because I think a lot of people don't necessarily know. They see like on social media, like, you know, the personalities and journalists and creators they follow randomly tweet about being at Summer Game Fest, but there's no tickets to purchase for the public. So maybe we should talk about what play days is, in case you didn't know, which so after the Summer Game Fest live stream that everybody can watch, there is a 3-day event that is invite only for select media and creators to go hands-on with several games that were shown off during the live stream, to interview developers, network, all of that. And that is what, when we kind of talk about being at Summer Game Fest, a lot of what we were talking about is being at Summer Game Fest play days, which is that invite only event. And
basically like contrast to E3, which ran up in person up until 2019. That was like a giant thing that took up both sides of the LA Convention Center in LA Live. And it was like, I think I looked at the attendance numbers for a feature that I wrote in the upcoming issue of Game Informer, and it was like 66,000 people attended E3 2019.
Wow.
And that is not the case for Summer Game Fest play days. It is far away from like the LA Live area, which is like kind of like a little bit of the heart of like downtown LA. It's like the most touristy area. It has, you know, I don't want to call it the crypto.com or the Staples Center where the Los Angeles Lakers play. And, you know, it has the LA Convention Center there. It has a bunch of restaurants and everything that you can eat, and a few hotels. So that's where E3 used to be held. And like, you know, EA Play would happen in that area as well. Microsoft would sometimes do their Xbox hands-on stuff at what used to be called the Microsoft Theater in that area as well. None of that stuff happens in that spot now. And in fact, like, you know, it used to be a big tradition that like the Hotel Figueroa, which is right on the corner there, would get a giant like reskin of one of the games that was like being highlighted at Summer Game Fest. This time it was like JSX Airlines or something, and then the big like billboards in that corner. It used to be like Batman Arkham's, I guess it was Arkham Knight, was like a big takeover they did in 2015 because it was launching around that time. And there's always like a big game billboard that like just like oversees that entire area. This time it was Only Murders in the Building, the Hulu show. And, it was also Don Julio Tequila. So, and then on the other side, the opposite side of the Hotel Figueroa, it was actually an ad for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 saying coming November 10th, which is a year old at this point. So nobody has purchased that advertising space is basically what I'm saying. But Playdays takes place kind of like not on the other side of LA, but like it's in the fashion district, which is about, I walked it most days. It was about a 35-minute walk from that LA Live area, and it's a much smaller campus. It's an area where it's, you know, it's a fraction of the size of even one of the LA Convention Center halls. And it's not so much about spectacle like it was at E3, where like Nintendo would show up and they'd have like, hey, we recreated Breath of the Wild's Hyrule, or we have like New Donk City for Mario Odyssey. It's just like, hey, here are some pods. Here's like a few private meeting areas. Some of them would go a little bit like extra with like bringing like, you know, a more intricate booth setup, but it's primarily just like meeting rooms and like areas that can give presentations. And maybe some of them would have like, hey, here's also, you can grab like a bag of pretzels before you go into your interview if you want, because we're all running on fumes. And then there's like a food truck area because like they would give us meal tickets, SGF would, to like, you know, so we're not starving because it's not really near anything. So there's like a food truck area. There's like some private meeting areas. There's some pods you can just kind of walk up and try some games. But primarily it's all about like the appointments and like meeting people. And it used to be like, I also in the feature, I talked about how at E3 you would be late to appointments because it was just like, it would normally take like 15 minutes to walk from one hall to the other. But once it got so full of like people in the public attending, you were late because it was like a 45-minute walk because you were just like scrunched up shoulder to shoulder trying to get from one side of the convention center to the other. And it was just like standstill foot traffic. This time you were late to appointments because you couldn't go more than 5 feet without seeing somebody you knew. And you're trying to be like, hey, I've got an appointment. I got to run, but like, let's catch up later. Trying to pull those moves. But like, it's a very well-run event, I would say. And much more well-run than what especially the later E3s were. But that said, it is missing something in terms of spectacle. Like there's no like giant statues and there's no like huge intricate like booth setups, and like, you know, there's the number of quote unquote press conferences. They were just live streamed like showcases at that point, but like they have been cut down substantially. Like, you know, we got like a bunch of like smaller showcases that were very indie focused, which showed a lot of really cool games, but it doesn't have that spectacle of like, all right, here comes Nintendo, and they're going to show like Shigeru Miyamoto is going to come out on stage with a Hylian shield and the Master Sword, and then play a broken demo of Skyward Sword.
There's no puppets.
Yeah, there's no puppets. However, we did get like the SGF showcase, which had a lot of really cool announcements. We got the Xbox showcase, which is one of their better ones they've done in recent years.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So we can talk about all those, but like, yeah, like the act of actually attending Summer Game Fest play days, as somebody who went to multiple E3s prior to it, you know, going away, it almost feels like, okay, from like a person in the media, this is what E3 should have always been. Sure. But I can understand why people who are not in the media, or are maybe even just content creators who are attending this, I could see why this would be less exciting, just because it doesn't have like, oh, this is really playing to like the enthusiast side of me, right? Like for me, as like, you know, I'm a diehard like lifelong gamer, so I always loved seeing like the giant statues and like the Mafia 3 like recreation of like a Bayou like house or whatever it was.
I feel like PAX is kind of taking that place now.
A little bit, and
Mhm.
that's smart because that's a slot that they could slide into, given that they are primarily consumer focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one, this is my, you guys have been before, right?
Yeah,
This
we've
is
been
my
to
first
every
time.
Summer Game Fest. So
Gotcha.
far.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the thing I find interesting about Summer Game Fest as a concept is talking about like how elaborate stuff got. We went to the Ubisoft area, which is like not a part of Summer Game Fest, but nearby, and they just kind of had their own. I think, was that a hotel or just like a convention, or
It was a theater.
it was a theater. Okay. They had like their own little theater space, and they like really decorated like the Assassin's Creed Shadows place. It was all like these red lighting, and they really made it like Japanese decorations and stuff. Like that was a really cool vibe to walk into.
Like samurai armor and like
Yeah.
katanas and stuff. It was cool.
Alex was like, "Yeah, I could wear that armor if I really wanted to." But it's interesting how the industry really likes, like, we're so used to having the E3 where it's like one event that everything happens at, and how Summer Game Fest is like kind of a replacement for that, but like, you know, Xbox isn't there. PlayStation was there this year, which is cool. Nintendo's always doing their own thing, and Ubisoft was like kind of participating, but like they're like, we'll do our own thing close enough nearby that people can walk. So it is like an interesting thing of, I think I felt that during the SGF showcase. I was like, yeah, this was like all right. I wasn't super impressed by the stuff, but it was, you know, it was fine. And then the Xbox showcase was going on. I was like, wow, it'd be wild if, you know, they were properly collaborating again. Also, I think Xbox just owns so many studios and developers at this point that it kind of is a thing of like, yeah, their showcase better be good. They've been buying every developer for the past like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, them and Embracer.
That is one thing that I will call out as like worse for Summer Game Fest is that everything is so spread out geographically. Like,
yeah.
And LA is not a good city to get around.
No.
So like the Summer Game Fest, like everybody's staying downtown to go to the play days, right? And the Summer Game Fest like live stream, like if you wanted to attend it live in studio or live in the audience, like I know you did, Charles, I was going to, until I realized it's all the way out by the airport.
Yeah, it's not close at all.
I'm not doing that. I've got like an appointment I've got to be back for. I can't do that. And then like the Xbox thing, exact same situation where it was like it's all the way out in Hollywood, and it was a very cool venue, don't get me wrong. Like I went to the Mixer that Xbox held the night before their showcase, and it was a very, very neat venue. It was the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum, so it was a very, very cool venue, but like it was way out of the way of like where most people were staying. So like I ended up not going to that showcase live either, because it was like, okay, well, I have to get back for like a Summer Game Fest appointment. And then like you had pointed out, like the Belasco, which is where Ubisoft held their event, it was walkable, but it was also like if I left in the afternoon, I was not going to go back to Summer Game Fest, because it was just like, okay, well, I had to schedule it in such a way that's like, oh, when I leave, I'm going to Ubisoft and then I'm done.
Yeah. And it like betrays the point. Like the whole point is that everything's right there together and you can like bounce back and forth. And then when you're having to like schedule in the like travel times and stuff, yeah, it does get weird.
Yeah, but overall, I will say I was very, very positive. This was the best Summer Game Fest yet in terms of like attending it. I don't know how you guys
they expanded it out from 2 days to 3 days. There
that would make a big difference.
Yeah. So I felt like I got to see more. And wasn't, I mean, we were still all slammed. You end up filling up your schedule no matter what, but I did see more than I did last year, which is cool. And
so much I didn't see though.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
I regret not seeing Monster Hunter. I like didn't make time for it, and I'm not a Monster Hunter guy, but the stuff I've heard of people that went there, they were like, that like blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
But yeah, it was fun. I could see them. I've been, every time I go, I think, okay, how can they expand it next year? And this year they had like Sega had a tent out back, which is smart to use because previously that space was just like very few people actually went out there to sit, and so they turned it into a big tent with like fans, and it kind of felt like, it didn't feel like you were like outside in a tent, like it felt like another room. And I think like where they had the food trucks, if they had like a big publisher show up next year for like an on-campus presence, they could put up a big tent where those were, and then move the food trucks across the street to where the badge pickup was. Like,
Sure, yeah.
I find the event organization fascinating. But yeah,
it was much more organized this time around.
yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the Wi-Fi desperately needs to be improved because it is non-existent. But yeah, they continue to improve that show, that event, I should say. And yeah, I guess we can get into like what we actually played there. I mean, actually, let's start with a couple of the. We can just kind of go day by day, like what our Friday was like, our Saturday, our Sunday.
Sure,
I think that'll be the
calendar.
best way because we can.
Yeah. I know I need to bring up my calendar then.
Yeah, we can chat through also the showcases that were that day. I think that'll be a great way to do it. But I arrived Saturday morning, the day the event started. You two were there at least the night before, the day of the actual.
I was there the week before.
Yeah.
Brian was all in the LA scene, yeah.
So yeah, the Summer Game Fest stream happened on Friday the 7th. I arrived Sunday the 2nd.
Wow, yeah.
So I visited Riot Games on Monday.
Did you get hands on with Valorant and 2KXO?
Yes, I did. 2XKO.
Oh, 2XKO.
I always want to say 2KXO as well because of 2K, like NBA 2K.
2XKO.
But it's 2XKO. But yeah, I got to play that, and I got to play Valorant on consoles before it was announced. And yeah, I had a great time doing both.
What's that? Can you tell me real quick on the Valorant? Because I play Valorant. What's the focus mode that I keep hearing about? I saw it's like kind of brings in like a vignette almost on your screen.
A little bit,
like.
Yeah.
Is that like you hold left trigger and it does that or something like that?
Yeah, it's when you aim down the sights. It's kind of like a vignette mode that like lets you like, I don't know, focus.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not much like, it's not anything that's like so innovative.
Is there like a magnification on it slightly as well?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Just like an ADS where it's like you pull the left trigger and you just look right down the sights of the gun.
Because not every gun in Valorant has that, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was curious.
So yeah, it's it feels good. This is Riot's first time coming to consoles as a developer. Obviously, they've published like those Riot Forge games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but this is like the first time they are developing a game specifically for console. I mean, obviously it's been on PC for 4 years now, but it played really well. They're doing cross-play and cross-progression. However, cross-progression goes across all platforms. Cross-play is only console to console, and then PC is still on its own island, which makes a lot of sense. I hate it when cross-play for a shooter includes PC players, because I'm a gamepad player. I'm not going to stand a chance. And somebody even asked, like, what about those like peripherals that allow you to use mouse and keyboard on console? And they're like, no, we're not allowing that.
Yeah. It's funny too, though, because there are some games now that have cross-play between PC and consoles. And like in Apex teams, almost every pro team has a controller player, because far away PC is always going to be better, but up close the tracking with like aim assist makes for like up close fights. It kind of favors the controller player. But Valorant is a game, a lot of things are done far away. It's a lot of on PC clicking little heads.
Yeah.
And so I think it makes total sense for them to keep those separate.
And it plays really well. They're developing it almost like a separate SKU, but in conjunction with it, because like they have to make sure all the content comes over in the right way. But they are saying that there's not a flagship SKU going forward. They're going to develop it all in parallel. They're going to bring all the content as much as they can day and date with the PC stuff. All of the content that is in the game currently is going to be in the game when it comes to consoles. I think there's a beta test happening later this month, if I'm not mistaken, maybe early July, but they're aiming for 2024 for it to come to consoles.
Interesting. Okay.
And it's free to play. So yeah.
And in 2XKO, what can you tell me about that? How'd that feel? I am very excited for that game.
So that's also a one that's coming to consoles. So it started off as a game called Rising Thunder, and that was a game developed by Radiant Entertainment, and that was Seth Killian, who very prominent figure in the fighting game community. He worked at Capcom, then he left to found his own studio. Riot bought them out in 2016, I think, and Seth actually left shortly thereafter, or in 2019, I think. He left, and he is now, I believe, at Netflix Games. But so 2XKO kind of took some of the ideas that Rising Thunder was doing, but they definitely rebuilt from scratch. It is a fighting game starring the champions from League of Legends. So if you're a League of Legends fan, you'll see a lot of characters that you know. If you're not, then it's just like, hey, these are new fighting game characters. It's a 2v2 fighting game, and you can actually play 4 players. So like you can have like 2 players on one team, 2 players on the other. And it's built around like approachability. So there's a button for special 1, and there's a button for special 2, and those specials are almost used like Smash Brothers specials, where it's like if you hold down and press special, it'll do one attack. If you press like forward and do special, it'll do another attack. So there are like different commands you can put in, but it's not like you have to do like, you know, charging and quarter circles and everything like you would in like Street Fighter. So it's really kind of playing off of that trend that we're seeing with games like Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8, where there's a more simplified version of controls, but that's just the way this game is. And there's some ways you can utilize like your team attacks in certain ways that are really like cool. Like you can call them in and have them like perform an attack, like, and also like juggle them off of them. So like they're playing off some of like the ideas present, like the Marvel versus Capcom games, but also the simplified controls in other games. And, you know, there's some really interesting ways that like you can call in your teammate to do an attack. And then if you press like I forget what button it is, but they will just stay and trade in to be like the new character on the screen. And then I was doing some really intricate combos. I mean, with the coaching of the director, by the way, I will say that, but I was pulling off really intricate combos within like a very short time because of like the way specials are implemented. And then there's also an ultimate system that I think you push both of the special buttons at the same time. You can like bring in throws into the equation. You're able to do cool stuff. Like basically like the way the director was I think his name's Sean Rivera. He was saying like, yeah, we basically wanted to make it so like people could find the fun as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And that's a very smart approach, especially in like a crowded fighting game market. And also the art style is absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah. And those character designs, I mean, like character designs are like Riot's bread and butter. And so I'm excited to see League characters in a different perspective. I know there's characters in there that I hate fighting against in League, like a Lowy, where I feel like she's just gonna be super annoying and to fight against in the fighting game as well. So I'm
pretty sure she's one of the more recently announced characters for 2XKO as well.
Yeah, her tentacles, I hate them. But that's cool. So fill me in. Did you do anything else before SGF proper that you can talk about?
So I visited 2 other studios. One of them I can't talk about. The other one was Treyarch.
Oh, nice.
Which I visited to see a presentation of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Doing a lot of stuff with that game. And I can't say any details, but I did get hands-on with the multiplayer as well.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
But they were like, they said you can say you played it. You can say like you enjoyed it, which I did enjoy it. But we can't really talk about like any details of what we played.
Okay.
But you know, they're doing a lot of stuff. Like the campaign is set in 1991. They are kind of doing like a successor to Black Ops Cold War. If you enjoyed that campaign, this seems like they're really playing into like that espionage thriller angle. The whole premise is like the US government has been infiltrated by this evil cabal, basically. And they are like, you know, the CIA has been compromised and like the Department of Defense has been compromised, I think. And it's like the Black Ops team actually goes rogue. So like they actually are fighting like members of the government because they are. So like, you know, there's a scene and they're doing
sounds
a
like
lot
a conspiracy theorist wet dream.
It is. It really is. And like, you know, the story mission that I saw a couple of story missions, but the one I saw most prominently took place during a Bill Clinton campaign fundraiser.
Oh my God.
So there's going to be some like nods to like the times and everything, and like, you know, they're coming out of like this like bunker that was like underneath it, and you know, you see like a Little Caesars pizza right there, so they're leaning into like the businesses that were really booming back then. And there's like, you know, there's sequences that take place in the US like that, and there's also sequences that take place like during the Gulf War, so you're over in Iraq and you're completing missions there. So there are a lot of moving pieces, and it's meant to be like, all right, who can you trust? You can't trust anybody. There's like paranoia, there's, you know, conspiracy, there's all kinds of stuff of like what is going on here, and taking place in the early 90s. So that's kind of exciting for me as somebody who actually like, you know, was alive and remembers pieces of the early 90s.
Yeah.
Charles, what do you remember about the early 90s?
Well, 1991, I believe, was the year my parents graduated high school.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So, you know,
that was the year I was born.
Okay, cool. And yeah, I was born. I barely missed the 90s. I was born in March of 2000, so narrowly.
Okay. Wow. You missed out on a lot.
Apparently, I'm trying to catch up.
A lot of conspiracies.
A lot of
Call of Duty levels you missed
You missed
out
the
on.
entire thing where this evil cabal infiltrated the CIA.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really glad I can play this historically accurate video game and catch myself up.
It's a retelling, you know.
And then the cabal left the government? Is that
We'll
right?
have to find out. Everybody got their memory wiped. It was like a real like Men in Black. That was also historically accurate, where everybody's
Men in Black
wiped.
is real. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
That was actually our first contact with aliens.
Wow. First.
Yeah.
You forgot Independence Day. That happened too.
Shoot, you're right. Yeah.
Will Smith is just everywhere.
That's where we got the national anthem from. Was that,
yes.
that event.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not Francis Scott Key.
No.
But also on Alex, this will be of interest to you. On the multiplayer side, Classic Prestige is back, baby.
Nice. My brother.
So not only that,
my brother had one question for me this whole weekend. He was like, "Find out if Prestige is coming back to Call of Duty."
So, all right, you ready for this? I'm bringing up my notes here. Classic Prestige is back. So military levels, 55 levels, like Modern Warfare 3. Then you have a choice to enter Prestige. There's going to be 10 levels of Prestige. And then you can enter Prestige Master after you finish those 10 levels of Prestige. And then that is 1,000 levels.
Wow.
Jeez.
And if you finish that, they say there is a classified reward waiting for you at the end of those 1,000 Prestige Master levels.
What the heck?
So how many people? I want to see the race to that. But so there's also 16 maps at launch in multiplayer, brand new ones. 12 of them are the classic 3-lane 6v6 maps. 4 of them are strike maps, which are for like the smaller like HVT and gunfight matches.
Yeah.
And then round-based zombies is also back. That's continuing the story where it left off on the Dark Ether storyline. So
Cool.
2 all-new maps for zombies at launch. And of course, they have a pretty aggressive post-launch plans, as you would imagine. They say tons of post-launch content planned. So
That's Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
It did look very impressive.
I'm
though.
in the mood for Call of Duty again, I'll say.
The last time I was like truly excited for a Call of Duty game was when I was at E3 2019, and
Modern
Activision
Warfare.
was like, "Hey, you got to check out the new Modern Warfare game." And I've been like so busy. This is the final day of E3 2019, and I was like, "All right, I have like 1 hour. Can I get in like a theater showing now?" And they showed it to me, and I was just like, "This is incredible!" Like I was blown away by that theater presentation. It was like the one where like you're like going into the people's house, like the person's house, and like you have to get up to like the attic, and like you're doing it stealthily. And that was such a cool mission to showcase. They did such an amazing job with that mission. And then I was like, I need to play this game. And that was the last time I was like really excited for a Call of Duty game. And this kind of gave me those vibes where I was like, oh wow, they're doing some cool stuff with this, the campaign especially, but also the multiplayer and zombies. I kind of fell off zombies after a couple of
I don't mess with
games.
zombies, but I do play multiplayer.
There are people who love the zombie stuff, so
yeah.
I'm happy for them if they're excited about round-based zombies coming back and like, you know, the continuation of that storyline. But yeah, multiplayer and the single-player campaign look really neat. So yeah, I'm excited for a Call of Duty game for the first time in a while.
Well, good. I do want to. I feel like we're gonna take a while to get through like our hands-on impressions. So I do kind of want to just run through highlights real quick from a couple of the showcases. I think Xbox had the best showcase.
Yeah.
Of the weekend.
Indisputably, honestly.
Yeah. They in terms of like first party, they showed off Doom: The Dark Ages, which gives the Doom Marine a Doom guy a shield that has spikes on it, and kind of goes medieval.
I'm all in on that game, by the way. It looks sick.
Yeah, that looks awesome. State of Decay 3 had a like cinematic trailer. I loved State of Decay 2.
Same.
It's the last game I really dived into co-op with my dad. So I'll have to tell him that there's another one. But that got me excited for whatever's coming next with that game. I think those systems in State of Decay are a lot of fun. We got like a horror DLC for Starfield, Shattered Space, I think it's called. I still have really not. I kind of bounced off of Starfield very quickly.
Same.
I do kind of retain some sort of eagerness to go and play that again now that there's been updates made and new content and all that.
That game for me, I did beat it, but I didn't like it, and then I like really dove into like the side faction stuff, and I was like, this stuff is great. Like this is what I wanted the whole time, and it kind of like lets you loose. So I'm excited for like the concept of a more focused DLC, because that was my favorite parts of Starfield were when it was like more directed like that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
We got another look at Fable from Playground Games, getting a 2025 release window. That's exciting. It's been years now, but I'm excited we're finally getting close. The thing that blew me away was Perfect Dark.
Looks good.
It looks incredible. We got a first look at gameplay. And
finally, by the way, like I feel like
they
announced that game like years ago. I mean, the initiative, I forget when the initiative was founded, but it was not a short while. I mean, it was
pre-pandemic.
2017 maybe.
And you know, we got looks at wall running and parkour, Mirror's Edge type stuff mixed with stealth and gadgets. It's giving Deus Ex, and I'm here for it. It looks awesome. I cannot wait to play that game.
By the way, initiative was founded in 2018.
2018, okay. Probably my most the thing that just kind of excited me the most from the whole weekend. Perfect Dark looks awesome. So we had that. Life is Strange Double Exposure is a follow-up to the first game. It's funny, I started getting Life is Strange TikToks on my For You page now.
Weird.
And yeah, it's just people replaying a certain scene from that game. It's really funny. What else? Indiana Jones looks good. We had a look at some extended cutscenes. They showed they teased the boulder run, which I think is bad. I think boulder runs in games, people who are like not sure what I'm saying, like when the camera pans around and faces the player and you have to run towards the camera as a chase scene happens behind you. You can't see anything in front of you. I hate that stuff. I think it's probably like the reason I don't like Crash Bandicoot.
Sure, yeah, I was gonna say
Uncharted barely got through that. Like my boredom and my frustration. I just hate those things. I think it's bad game design.
Well, maybe
cool in movies, but God.
Maybe that's the opening of the cutscene, and then you have to kind of parkour your way through an obstacle because it's a first person game.
Maybe
so
it
how would
pans
they do
back.
That?
Yeah, maybe it pans back around.
I don't know if they're Crash Bandicooting it. I think they might just be like that might just be the opening cutscene, and then you have to take over from there. I think that what they're
You play
doing
as
there,
the boulder, and you have to try to hit Indiana.
but the camera's fixed on a certain point, so it's just constantly rolling.
Oh gosh,
Just vomiting
People
everywhere.
vomiting everywhere. But I think that what they're honestly going to do is I think they're going to allow people to replay classic scenes from the movies. Because why would they just be like, hey, he's in another place that traps him with a giant rolling boulder? I think that is them making it like teasing that there's going to be classic Indiana Jones scenes that you will be able to relive through the game.
Like a mode.
Yeah,
Really cool.
like I don't know, Indiana Jones Legends or something.
I
That's my theory.
I like the idea of there just being other boulders across the world that
Not again.
Why does it always have to be boulders?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he doesn't fear anything except snakes, so
And not boulders? Okay.
not boulders. He runs from them, but he's not afraid of them.
Yeah, we got to look at Avowed again in a new trailer. That continues to look promising. I know one of my big critiques was looking at like the early trailers, like the combat just not feeling like having that feedback, that screen shake I wanted, that impact. And they've continued to say they're working on that stuff. But I'm eager to play that game. Stalker 2, I actually went hands on with at Summer Game Fest. We can talk about that later. Probably the biggest announcement for Xbox sickos is Gears of War E-Day was announced. It's a prequel set 14 years before the first game. Looks like it stars Marcus Phoenix and Dom. And
I could not be more excited for having that duo back.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's really like the what Quiet Place is doing, right? Where it's like, okay, we did 1 and 2, so like we've gone forward in the story the way Gears has, and now we're going back in the story and showing like when these aliens first arrived.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what Quiet Place is doing, and now also Gears of War, which I'm for it. I mean, I like the world building in that sense.
Me too. We're getting 3 new Xbox Series X and S models this holiday. A all digital 1 terabyte Series X that's white. We're getting a 1 terabyte Series S, and then a special edition Xbox Series X. It's Galaxy Black and it's 2 terabytes SSD.
Of course.
Yes.
I just bought an Xbox Series X.
Oh, did you?
I didn't ask for the longest time.
I would have
still
sold
do.
you mine. That's all right.
I mean, I got it with Amazon points because I'm on my Discover Rewards points.
Fair.
For free, basically.
Damn. Okay. And yeah, we got some updates for Fallout and that kind of thing. I think one of another highlight for me was South of Midnight.
Oh yeah, that looks really cool.
Which it got a first gameplay trailer in the 2025 launch window. That is Compulsion Games. It's set in a bayou. And Compulsion Games made We Happy Few, which I don't know how many people played that. Not as many.
I reviewed it.
You did? What do you give it?
Yeah. I think I gave it like a 7. Like it was fine.
Yeah. But this looks like a action game. The animation's cool. It's the frame rate of the character animations is on a separate like cycle than like the real-time gameplay, and so it lends this not stop motion look, but it lends almost like Into the Spider-Verse look during like cutscenes. In terms of like the frame rate that everything's playing back at. It's cool. And the gameplay itself, I mean, I was getting some Infamous vibes, like when the character like slingshotted across the map and like was flinging into the air. I was like, oh, that looks like Infamous. It looks cool. I can't wait to play it. There's a big catfish that the character rides along. They all sound like the people I grew up around in Virginia. Well, I guess Virginia's not quite as southern as like Louisiana, but it gave me happy feelings just hearing southern accents in general. And it looks like it's got like some bayou folklore going on. It looks cool. It's called South of Midnight if you missed it. And I do want to jump ahead to Fragpunk, which is a game that people kept coming up to me at the show and telling me, have you played Fragpunk? You got to play it. It was like there was a behind closed doors event for it, and it's a 5v5 shooter. Listen, if this game looks cool to you, you don't want to wait to play it, go play Friends vs. Friends. It's the same thing. It's not the same thing, but Fragpunk looks to be like what if we put like some big publisher money behind the concept of like a card-based first-person arena shooter. Looks cool. It's coming out sometime next year.
So, Alex, I think the perfect segue there would be a game I think we both also checked out, and I think Charles even checked it out too, Marvel Rivals.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts. I have thoughts.
So my thoughts as someone who I like, my basic vibe was I liked it, but it wasn't as, I remember the first time I played Overwatch. It's, I guess for people listening, Marvel Rivals is essentially Overwatch with Marvel characters, and it's
But also in third person.
Also in third person. Yes, good point. I remember the first time I played Overwatch and just really being like, it's amazing how much I click with like every character. Like I feel like it hit across the board. My main thing with Marvel Rivals on my first play is like, oh, not every character is like immediately super intuitive, which I didn't think was a bad thing, but I think I was expecting, because it has like the Marvel license, that they were going to go for a more like everyone can jump in and play as their favorite character type thing.
Yeah.
And I think you know, people would still enjoy it, but right off the bat I was like, I love Spider-Man. I'm gonna pick Spider-Man.
He felt bad.
But in like a shooter setting, it's like not. It didn't like translate immediately, and I might have been able to like figure him out. I just wanted to try a bunch of characters.
I picked him first too, and I hated it.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed Spider-Man because I also like more mobile characters. I thought that.
Yeah.
I also absolutely suck with mouse and keyboard, and they didn't have any game pads. So I was playing mouse and keyboard and like doing my best to like just like walk in a straight line basically. But like, you know, I enjoyed it. And I think that like going into it, a game that is so heavily influenced by a title like Overwatch, and I put 1,000 hours into Overwatch 1, and I love Marvel games. So like, you know, I'm predisposed to like this game. But like, a game that's so heavily inspired by a game I've spent so much time into, poured so much time into, there's one of two things. One, it either feels really good, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they really nailed what made Overwatch special, or it's going to feel like a cheap imitation. And it didn't feel like a cheap imitation to me. It felt like they're onto something with this gameplay, and they're onto something with the way that some of these characters control. Like, and I tried other ones, and not all of them clicked with me either. But like, my biggest fear for this game is its monetization cannot be. And I told them this. I told it was the director, producer, and the guy that's like kind of overseeing it at Marvel Games. I was like, look, there's nobody who is predisposed to like this game more than me, being like, you know, over 1,000 hours in Overwatch, diehard Marvel fan. I love like all the MCU stuff, of all the TV shows. Like I used to read comics a lot more than I do now. If the monetization is like predatory or exploitative or just like feels bad, that's going to do to me what Overwatch's new monetization methods did, where it's just like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like a battle pass, like that screws you over unless like you really grind it out. Like that discourages play. And I told them like, that's the way that you would get rid of any goodwill that I got out of this gameplay session, of like feeling like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see myself like spending some time with this game when it comes out. And so hopefully that's not the case, because like I do feel like they're on to something. I don't think like I'm like ready to like be like, I declare that this is the new Overwatch, and like everybody who left Overwatch should check out Marvel Rivals. But like, you know, if it's a free to play game, if I'm not mistaken. So like,
yeah,
if when it comes out, like, why not check it out? If like you were an Overwatch fan, you're kind of missing what Overwatch 1 brought to the table in the wake of Overwatch 2. Like, why not give it a shot? That's what I'm going to do whenever like the gamepad like beta or whatever is available, just to see how it feels in comparison.
I did get a controller for what it's worth, by the way.
Geez. Well,
I don't know, because I was
carpet for you.
I did it later, so I wonder if they like went and they were like, oh, everyone wants controllers, so we got to go get some controllers hooked up. But
I did mention that to them, and they're like, oh, well, this build does have controller like support. And I was like, oh, well, I did not bring a controller. And they're like, oh, okay. So maybe that was the feedback that I gave them. And
they had controllers when I went. Yeah.
Well, I wish I would have gone later.
Yeah.
Maybe me going earlier like changed the
Yeah, maybe.
timeline.
I think I'm a bit more cynical on the game than you, Brian. I think a cheap imitation is a bit harsh. I do feel like it feels a little rushed. Not rush. It didn't come together for me. As not that I won't play it, but it feels more like, oh, I'll play this for a weekend rather than like this is gonna go into my rotation. And I still currently play Overwatch 2 pretty regularly, and yeah, I think it just felt. I think Charles mentioned like some of the characters don't play how you think they would, and granted, like I would get used to it over time. That did throw me for a loop. Like I was expecting Spider-Man to be more of like a ranged character or something with like his webs, and he has a couple of those, but then he's mostly like a fist character. And I didn't enjoy the up close combat as much as I did playing ranged characters. I thought Star-Lord was a lot of fun. I played him, and then I played Namor.
How does he play?
Namor is like almost like a zone controller, so he can place down. I also wasn't quite sure exactly what some of the things were doing, because I'm like I think I tried like 12 different characters in like the span of like 5 games. But Namor has his spears, so left click is like just a normal throwing a spear. Right click seems to like have a little more stickiness when you throw it at somebody. Like it seems like it kind of, if you throw it in their vicinity, it seems like it almost like will hit them anyways, even if you missed. I don't know if that was intentional or what, but and if that right click also your ultimate as Namor, you summon this big fish out, and there's something to do. There's some sort of synergy there, I believe. But his ultimate's cool because you like. What's up?
Like team up attacks are also a thing that's in this game.
That was cool.
Like,
That was cool. Rocket Raccoon, I played as Rocket him, and I jumped on top of Groot's shoulders, and I was playing with bots at that moment, so like it wasn't like I could tell my teammate like, oh, go over here. I was kind of at the whim of the bots, but that is cool and feels unique.
And yeah, like Scarlet Witch and Magneto can like do synergies, which is cool. I didn't get the chance to try theirs out, but I was looking at like the list of team up attacks because in the menus they had like a list.
I played predominantly with bots, which I did play one game at the end with real people, and that was like the best it felt. I was like, okay,
oh for sure, that's when it all clicked. Like
and
we got smoked by bots my first game, and I was like, oh no. And then the second game we did end up winning, even though one of our human players, he was playing as Groot, and Groot can make like plant walls. And they were finding out that you can make them like horizontally on a wall as like a ramp. And so this Groot, the whole game just built a ramp up a random wall and was just kind of hanging out on top there and was like not participating, just kind of like messing around with the system. So we did kind of have like one team member less, but we somehow managed to win that game.
What a strange thing to do if you're like there previewing a game.
Yeah, I wonder if they were just like troll. Yeah, if they were there for like a really long time and they got bored, or if they were just like a YouTuber that was like really trying to test the limits of stuff. But yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I got sat between 2 YouTubers and it was an experience. I'll say. I think they knew each other and just kept like dabbing each other and like reaching in front of me to dab each other and that kind of stuff. I'm like, please stop.
You guys can sit next to each other if you want.
Yeah.
We can trade computers.
Yeah. But yeah, it was. I'm not as sold as you, but
I mean, I'm not sold.
As I'm talking about it, I'm coming more around. I think I was really underwhelmed at first, and that last game I did enjoy, but I think it still has a lot to prove for me. I want to get a code for like that beta or whatever that's going on. I know people have had access to it. I'm not gonna sign that stupid agreement though that I can only talk positively about the game. I saw that going weird. Around. Yeah, that's weird. But that's Marvel Rivals. I guess we can get into our other things that we played at Summer Game Fest. We're already almost an hour into the podcast.
One thing that I think a lot of people were hoping would be at Summer Game Fest, the live stream, but was not, We got to pour one out for the Hollow Knight homies.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
Tragic.
The Xbox showcase or the Summer Game Fest showcase. That leaves the only real option if it's coming out second half of this year, the Nintendo Direct that's coming this month.
Dude.
That's true.
I saw that tweet going around of it was Xbox is saying like somebody asking Xbox, so this means every game in your showcase this year is coming out within 12 months. It's from a couple years ago, and Xbox says that's exactly what we said. And it was like a year later, somebody said, somebody was tweeting it, and then another year later, somebody was tweeting that tweet. It was just like, man, you didn't do Team Cherry any favors with that one.
Yeah.
Xbox. I mean, if Team Cherry told them it was coming out during that time,
yeah, who knows? There were other games though in that list that definitely didn't come out in 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
But that's funny.
They were like, we got to push Redfall out to make sure.
Yeah. Oof. I can talk about my PlayStation games I played.
Yeah.
It's a good time for that. So first game I played, Astrobot.
Nice.
That game goes so hard. So I remember when I played the PS5 like tech demo for the first time, and I was like, this game's so fun. It's amazing, but it's really short. And in my head, I was like, okay, the size of this game allows the levels to feel so good. Like they've condensed everything down so that any one level is really like, this is all the stuff we've got, and it's going to be really cool. And then playing like a few levels of the full game, I was like blown away by like, oh no, the whole thing is going to feel like this. Like every game is going to have that like handcrafted quality. And I had like my notebook, and I wasn't expecting to take that many notes. And I had like pages and pages because it felt like every second I had to like pause the game and write something down because it was so cool. But yeah, and I played 2 levels. I fought a boss. It still feels good. I mean, it plays the same as the tech demo.
Yeah.
So it's all the same controls. There's a punch. You can do like a little hover jump where you shoot lasers down to hit people underneath you. And then I also got some power-ups. The first power-up I got, it was like an octopus backpack. And when I used the right trigger, it like inflated and like sent me like soaring up into the air.
That's cool.
And there's a part where you can go underwater, and when you inflate it, you like immediately shoot up to like the surface, which was fun. I got I think it was a dog. Yeah, a dog backpack, and he was like a jetpack basically. So when I pressed the right trigger there, I would like shoot forward as like a rocket, and they used that to like break through certain objects. And there was also like some platforming there. And then in the boss level, I got these frog gloves. And that one you get each trigger punches out the other fist, kind of like arms, I guess.
Yeah.
But they can punch, so that was like really fun. And that's like, I mean, it's just what the game is for, but the triggers feel really good then when it has like just enough resistance that when it pops out, it feels like you really like pulled it back. And those can punch stuff, and you can also use those to like swing on these certain like red poles to like go through a level to platform. And that was like the whole boss fight revolved around, I fought this giant octopus, revolved around having those frog gloves. And then after you beat this boss, you go and you rescue throughout the game, you're rescuing little other astrobots, and sometimes they're just like in sticky situations. Some of the like cooler ones to find are like dressed up as PlayStation characters. The first one I saved, Ratchet and Rivet astrobots. After you beat the octopus, there's like a capsized rowboat, and then when you go over there, you can use your gloves to flip it over, and Kratos and Atreus are inside. And then the 3 of you fly off together, and then it unlocks a like God of War Ragnarok like themed level, but it was locked for the demo. But I could see it had like Thor's hammer on like a big frozen chunk of ice. And I was like, dude, I want to play that so bad. And it also makes me like really excited for like, there are 6 worlds. So I'd assume, and this is me just talking out of my ass, but I assume at least there'd be at least one of these in each of those worlds. And I'm just really excited to see like what games they want to do like these like spin-off levels for. But yeah, so that's really exciting. And then there's also these, smaller levels. there was like a circle and a cross one, just like the PlayStation buttons. And those are like really like intense platforming levels, so like challenges. So you have to get through it in one life. And I beat the first one. I didn't have time to beat the second one. But
and are those
the main
akin to
levels,
like a Mario challenge room where it's like 30 seconds or less?
Well, it's not timed, but it's like around. It just takes
sorry,
that
I don't.
long
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like
it's like a fast level.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. The first one, it was like a bunch of floating like ice circles, so you like skate along there, and these guys had like they're swinging spike balls on chains you had to jump over. And then the second one revolved around this like capsule you can pick up, and when you throw it at an item, it slows time. When you throw it at an enemy, it slows time. So you had to like grab them and throw them at the right time to like platform and avoid obstacles and stuff. But yeah, the main levels were like not hard. It was, Mario's a good comparison where you're going through like a early level in Mario Odyssey or Mario Galaxy, and it's more about like, wow, what a charming, beautiful place to go hang out in, and it's still like fun to do even though it's not like challenging. These are the levels are like hard, and I'm excited to see like people start speed running them and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Astrobot good.
That's one of the most anticipated games for me, even though I didn't get a chance to see it or play it. Like I saw the announcement obviously when it happened on the PlayStation showcase, but the Astrobot game that came out with the PS5 was probably the best launch title. I mean, it was up there, right? Like
absolutely.
Or the other launch titles like Miles Morales, which is unbelievable, and Demon's Souls, I guess, was the other one.
There's a little bit
best exclusive launch title.
Yeah, I mean, but like as far as like demonstrating what the DualSense can do, like it was so novel and so cool, and it was like the levels were so well designed. But yeah, Miles Morales was really good.
I really. The other game I played was Lego Horizon Adventures, which such an odd little game. So the first thing that stood out to me, it's a Lego game. It's not developed by TT Games. It's developed by, I think it's Studio Gobo, it's called. And Gorilla. So the people that made the Horizon games are working on this. They have the entire voice cast back. The guy I was playing the demo with said like a lot of the writers from the first game were writing on this. And it just retells the events of Horizon Zero Dawn. So that first game. And like I said, it wasn't made by TT Games. So there's some parts of like a Lego game when you think of it that do translate, but a lot of it was like very different. So like in a base Lego game, anything made of Legos, that's like your gameplay cue to like punch that, and you can usually destroy it, or it'll be like some significant item. In this game, there wasn't nearly as much like environment destruction, but the whole world is made of Lego. Like they really committed to it. So like the water is made of like little Lego studs floating around, and like the environments looked really nice. And then gameplay wise, it wasn't like a complicated game, but like based on what you'd expect. Compared to what you expect from a Lego game, there's like you can hide in the tall grass from the enemies, and they have weak points that you can target with your weapons. There's like consumable items you can get. I picked up like a fire spear when I was playing as Varl, and it had 12 uses. If you shoot an arrow through an open flame, it'll light tall grass on fire, so then you can't hide in that anymore. Like there's just like a lot more intricacy to like the gameplay systems than I expected.
That's awesome.
And then obviously it's goofy because it's a Lego game. It's all the same voice actors, but they're not doing the lines at all the same. I think the story's like slightly altered from what I remember, just to make it more digestible. I'd have to wait and see until like I actually played the full game. But like I remember Aloy getting her focus in like a cave, like in one of those like old ruins, and in this one I think Ross just gives it to her. She like finds it like out in the open during the tutorial area. But still good, still cool, still probably the same rough story. And then the other Lego goofiness thing is like you can dress up. Like Aloy can have they have like Lego City stuff. They have Lego Friends, which is their like girls line. Lego Ninjago, there are all these outfits. You can customize the hub area buildings. You can make like one room like a hot dog cart, and one room have like a Lego Ninjago roof and all that stuff. And then even in the games, I summoned a hot dog cart. I keep talking about the hot dogs because for some reason that's the main thing I remember from this. But I summoned a hot dog sales guy, and he threw explosive hot dogs at all the machines I was fighting as like a power-up ability. Also, characters level up. There's like a level up path where your damage and health goes up and such.
Yeah.
So it's just like a really interesting thing. As someone who's like, obviously, well, I mentioned all the time, my first ever video game I played was Lego Star Wars. So I have a very like strong attachment to the Lego series. It's very interesting to see another studio's like take on what it means to be a Lego game.
That's awesome. How about you, Brian? What are some of the any highlights of that you played that you can talk about? I know some of the stuff we played is still under embargo.
Yeah, so I'll just run through these quickly. But Metaphor Refantasio, the new game from the Persona developers, that played really cool. It basically, like, the elevator pitch could be boiled down to it's Persona but in a fantasy world.
Okay.
Instead of like taking place in like real world Japan.
Mm-hmm.
However, like, you know, a lot of the art style is the same. Like the characters kind of dress like they're in like the modern ages. And then there's also, instead of personas, you get archetypes that you can summon. That's basically like a distillation of like what they think a hero is. And then there's a line-based combat system. So it's still turn-based, like Persona. It has a lot of the similar UI as well. But like you can set like certain characters in the back and they'll take less damage, but also their melee attacks will be less impactful. So you can, or their physical attacks, sorry. So you have to like balance, like, okay, am I going to want this character to do like physical attacks? Or are they only going to be casting magic?
Mm-hmm.
If so, I'll put them in the back and then like, you know, put my more like physical characters up front. But yeah, like a lot of it is kind of like Persona-esque. And they say there is like some sort of like relationship management. I don't know if it's going to be on the level of Persona, but yeah, I had a really good time with it. I played like the dungeon. I did the tutorial, I did the dungeon, and then I did a boss fight, and they were all really fun. I played for about 45 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask how long that took. Was it like a full dungeon in that time, or was it like
no? So it was like 15-minute chunks of like, okay, here's 15 minutes. You can play through like an early part of the game. Here's another 15-minute gameplay segment of you just dungeon crawling, and then here's another 15-minute segment of you fighting a boss. So yeah, had a good time with that. I got to play Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which, as somebody who grew up enjoying the Budokai games, I never really played the Budokai Tenkaichi trilogy or the games in that series, but I love the Budokai trilogy, and that was kind of like my main interaction point with the Dragon Ball Z franchise when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed like those titles. So I like, they're doing like some really fun like what if scenario stuff with this one. Like there are, I think it was either 8 or 10 characters that you can play through. Like the events from Dragon Ball Z all the way up to Dragon Ball Super is like the characters that you can control all the way up. Obviously Goku is going to have the longest story out of all like the individual characters, but like you play through like impactful and iconic scenes from the show, or the shows, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there's also several what if scenarios. The one that I got to see is at the very beginning of Dragon Ball Z, fight Raditz when he comes to Earth. And then you've got to be like, okay, well, what if Piccolo and Goku didn't team up to fight Raditz at the end of that? So there's like several what if things, and like you can actually defy like the what if logic, because it's like, oh, well, you're supposed to lose this battle, but if you win, you get like a special cutscene. And then there's like custom battles that you can like build out with like, okay, well, like you can have these 3 characters fighting these 3 characters, and there's like win conditions and like what environment it takes place in. You can share those with friends. There's going to be like extra battles, I think they're called, where it's like the developers just like create like kind of like cool scenarios for you to take on. And then there's just a one-on-one battle, or like 3-on-3 if you want to. You can each side can have up to 3 character spots, and like you can swap out characters mid battle, and you can you know, transform, do the transformations, and you charge your EK gauge, so you can pull off even more power moves. Yeah, 3D fighting feels good. You're floating all around the environment, destructible, like fighting city, like you're smashing Vegeta and building crumble. And same for like mountains, and then there was one like a stadium, it's like a martial arts tournament, like I got carried away, and I was blasting like a Kamehameha into like the stadium, and like did damage to the stadium, and like triggered a cutscene in battle, like the announcer being like, "We gotta get out of here," and you see the crowd like suddenly running out of the stadium. It was kind of cool. But yeah, that was a really fun demo. I'm really looking forward to that. It made me want to go play the Budokai remaster trilogy that the remaster series they put out. But then I realized it's only on Xbox 360 and PS3. It's not actually on PS4 and Xbox One. So with the Xbox 360 marketplace closed down, you actually have to go get a physical copy if you want that, I believe, which is a bummer because I would love to, reacclimate myself with those games. But I mean, this one comes out October 11th on the modern consoles. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Let's see.
Nice.
Keep going. Quick one here. Rusty Rabbit. It is a 2.5D side-scrolling action game. You play a rabbit who kind of has like almost like it's not as cute as it sounds, but like basically humanity has left Earth and rabbits have evolved to be the dominant species, and they're like, he's piloting a mech, and like basically the rabbits have like misinterpreted what humanity left behind. So like they found the fairy tale of Peter Rabbit and they've interpreted that to be like their holy scripture. But like it's very like irreverent.
Peter.
Yeah, basically. It's like very irreverent. Like the opening cutscene is like, all right, well, his wife and his daughter have left him, and like he's sitting there on his couch and he's smoking, but it's a carrot that he's smoking, which was kind of cute. And they all have like these. The demo I was playing was in Japanese, and it's like I'm absolutely playing it this way because they all have like gruff voices that you would expect in like a Yakuza game. And I just loved watching this like gruff sounding, very cute rabbit speaking in Japanese and smoking a carrot. I was like, this is the way I'm going to play 100%. But
who's the developer on that?
I don't know the developer's name, but it's written by Gen Urobuchi, who was the writer of Fate Zero.
Okay.
And it like, he had like a very trademark sense of humor that he's integrating into this. But it played well. There's a lot of upgrades and everything. One that caught me off guard. We'll move on to this. Yars Rising. That's it's almost like a 2D Metroidvania. It's being published by Atari, but it is being developed by Way Forward, which instantly tells me that it's going to play well. And it does. I honestly was not a fan of the art style when I saw the reveal, but it pays homage to a lot of Atari franchises, which is cool. So like there's mini games like where you have to hack, and it actually does like a little like homage mini game to Yar's Revenge, the old like 1982 Atari game. But then like I got to a boss battle and it was the Missile Commander, which pays homage to Missile Command, the 1980 Atari game. And the mechanics are kind of related to that as well. So like he shoots up these missiles in the air, and you can use this attack that almost is like Ness's PK Thunder in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
So you have to like intercept the missiles and like detonate at the right time, kind of like in Missile Command, and then unload on the actual boss himself. And then there's like all kinds of different like Easter eggs for like Atari, like the save terminals all look like old Atari computers. And I think I saw somebody like post that like there was just a giant billboard in the background that said Nolan, which is paying tribute to Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what other like Easter eggs they have for Atari games. But like, it's stealth. It's like 2D, but it's also stealth. It's also Metroidvania. It's also like Mega Man inspired in terms of like the gameplay. Okay. So like a lot of promise in that one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to touch on these as quickly as possible. SteamWorld Heist 2, I really had a good time with. Played that for about 45 minutes. It seems like it's really carrying on the legacy of the first one. The strategic, tactical, turn-based 2D combat, which is really fun. Like, so it's like a 2D style game, but like, it's almost like XCOM inspired. Like you have to get behind cover, and you have to like you can bank your shots off walls and ceilings to try to hit your enemies, and some weapons are better at that than others. Some have more range. So if you're a sniper, you have a really long sight line that you can bounce off and do trick shots. You have to like complete different objectives on that. You can a deep class customization system on that. Monster Hunter Wilds, that demo was really impressive. Like the way I was watching it, I'm not a Monster Hunter like diehard either, but I was really impressed by this. It was just like, wow, this is like almost thrilling to the point of exhaustion, which is like kind of how I felt like watching like John Wick 4, where I was just like, watching it in theaters, I was like, this is incredible, and then like by the end of it, I was like out of breath almost by like, man, that was just like an adrenaline rush from start to finish. But like they played out an entire hunt in the demo that I saw, and like there were so many cool things of like, all right, we're gonna lead him through this area, and hopefully this other monster will attack him, and then we're gonna lead him into this storm, and this region's apex creature is going to attack. And there were a lot of really, really impressive systems that like all meld together and work, and it made me really want to re-download Monster Hunter World just to like get a taste of like the excitement that demo brought. So that was one I was. What was that?
That poor dinosaur / monster.
Oh, did you watch it too? Did you see the
no,
demo as
but
well?
I saw somebody, I think John Moore on Twitter was like, he was like, my most annoying take about Monster Hunter is that I feel bad because
I felt bad too, because like he got injured, the monster got injured, he started limping away, and they're like, okay, we're just gonna let him go for now. And then they like found him later in the demo, like the next day, like they went back to their camp, slept, and he was asleep, and they're like, all right, we're gonna wake him up in like a really mean way. So like they put a bunch of explosive barrels all around the monster and then shot the barrels and exploded like right by the monster. I was like, the monster's probably like, really guys, like I'm just trying to like recover from like all the danger of yesterday and like all the wounds that I felt bad for the monster too, but like then I'm like, oh wait, it's a video game, I don't have to feel bad for the monster. The last one I want to touch on, an indie title that people told me I should check out, Parcel Core.
This looks awesome.
Yeah.
This was so cool. I want to say it was Victor Lucas, a longtime YouTuber, that told me to check this out. And I went, and it's basically like Jet Set Radio meets Crazy Taxi, but on a bike. So like, for the way that the premise was that like the city has outlawed biking, and like because like there were 3 corporations that were like vying for control over like the bike delivery market or something. Yeah. So it's like a really out there premise, but it's like you have to like accept deliveries and then get them delivered in a certain amount of time. So there's like the Crazy Taxi DNA, but the controls are very Jet Set Radio. You're grinding on rails, you're like pulling off tricks as you get there, and it's all like one big tongue-in-cheek like commentary on the gig economy, which was really fun as well. And like there's a lot of like cultural references, like, or pop culture references. Like there was a Breaking Bad reference that I spotted, and there's like other stuff. Like there's and certain deliveries have different conditions. Like there was like a guy who like was running like a wine business, and he wanted me to deliver his bottles of wine, but because they're wine bottles, you can't be too reckless. So like you could only sustain a certain amount of damage before the mission failed. Yeah. Other ones are like, just get the package there as fast as possible. I don't care what it takes. And then there's a mode where it basically is like a Crazy Taxi mode, where you're going around, like you go to one delivery person and you have to like make it over to another one before time expires and then deliver that package. So there's a lot of really cool stuff at play with this. They said the hardest thing for demoing to Americans is that because they're, I believe, an Irish developer, all the cars go on the left side of the road. Yeah. So like you're going through, you're riding your bike through traffic, and I'm riding on the right side just by, instinct. And he's like, oh, no, you're going to get hit by a car if you drive on that side.
That's funny.
Wow.
But yeah, that was a really fun one. And that one's coming out relatively soon. I think that's coming out in September.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Do you know?
Yeah, those are the ones that I saw that I was most excited about. I really, really enjoyed my demo that I got of Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I know we're not going to talk about that quite yet.
Yeah, I need to check the I think, Charles, you're going to talk about that probably, right?
Right now? Oh,
no. I need to check the embargo on.
No, the embargo's up.
Okay.
For Assassin's Creed Shadows, okay. But I mean, the demo was very impressive.
Yeah, we can just get into it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can talk about it, or any of us can.
Go, Charles, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
was
didn't
thrown
go
for a loop.
hands-on,
I was
right,
like, oh, is there an
Brian?
embargo? None of us
Did you
went
get
hands on.
or no?
No hands-on.
Okay,
It was
okay,
just
then
a
yeah, it was
theater
just-
presentation.
Yeah, I mean, so I think people that saw the Ubisoft Forward saw a chunk of what we got to see. So obviously, this new game set in Japan. You got Yasuke, the samurai, and Naoe, the shinobi. And in the gameplay demonstration, you see Yasuke doing some combat, and then Naoe sneaking into this facility, the castle.
It's a castle town they're in, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Or not quite a castle town. This is just a normal castle. Sorry.
I think he used the word castle town.
There are castle towns in the game. I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking. Yeah. We also got to see what it looked like if Yasuke were to go in that castle to assassinate the daimyo, I think is
daimyo
the position.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also saw Naoe if she went during the day and was taking like a slightly less stealthy approach and was like actually engaging in combat sometimes.
Yes, 3 paths.
Yeah. In addition to Naoe at night. And Yasuke looks nuts. Like I really, really appreciated from these demos seeing how different these characters were, because there's been a lot of different assassins. So the idea of like 2 assassins was always like cool, but for the most part, like game to game, the assassins play the same. There's more changes like dramatically over time. But they have generally the same toolkit.
Yeah.
And Yasuke is just so different. He's like,
not even really an assassin. I mean, he's just
he's not stealthy. He doesn't do parkour, like he doesn't climb walls. He's got the huge armor on, so it doesn't make any sense. We're just showing he basically just walks right in and just fights dudes. He can like charge through walls with his shoulders. He just had all these. Oh, and he also has like a gun. He has like a rifle.
Yeah.
For like ranged combat.
I love that they're just like, they even acknowledged in the demo, they're like, yeah, stealth's not an option when you're Yasuke. He's not really like hiding from anybody.
Yeah, and like when you walk in town, like everyone turns and looks at you because you're, I mean, first of all, an African person in Japan, but also he's huge and wearing this like really ornate samurai armor. So he like draws all this attention from all these people.
Yeah.
And I think he's like such an interesting direction to take. And I think because of that, Naoe can really be like traditional assassin. Like she's got some other cool things, but for me, whenever I'm playing an Assassin's Creed game, I really like the fantasy of being the sneaky hooded assassin and like, having my hidden blade and stabbing people in the dark and all that. And they always want to make each game a little bit different from the last and like add something in to kind of spice it up. And I think Yasuke's existence of being so far from what you expect allows Naoe to be a lot more traditional. And if people just want like a quote unquote normal Assassin's Creed game, Naoe's doing like all the things you were looking for. Whereas like Yasuke is going to be like a real wild card. And I'm really excited to see like more of that.
Yeah, he was just brutal in the way that his executions, and like he would literally just like walk up to people, and there's like weapon flourishes he can do, of course, but like even just like base attacks, like he's just doing so much more damage than Naoe did. Naoe, they fight like a little, not a boss. He's just like a bigger kind of guard. And what takes Yasuke like 3 strikes takes Naoe like 10. And like,
but Naoe seems really like capable in like the hand-to-hand stuff as well. Like I was thinking like, okay, well you got to be stealth or nothing with her. And then I saw this demo and I was like, oh wow, she's like she looks really fun as well with like just going in, like if you want to do action style gameplay.
She also has this cool move where she runs up against a wall, like briefly wall runs, kicks herself off of a wall and throws a grappling hook right above her. And that's how like she can scale walls that have like trim around them.
Like the flared roofs.
Yeah. Or like walls that don't have like handholds, which is super cool. But yeah, just like Yasuke's brutality, where like there was one part where he's literally like holding up an enemy by the throat with his blade, and then just like flings them off of it, and they just like go flying. Also in our demo, I don't know if it happened to you, Brian, I'm really curious. In like the first encounter as Yasuke, when you're in just the town, not the castle yet, he goes in to attack an enemy, and just like a random townsperson gets caught in the middle, and like on the upswing, Yasuke just like beams this townsperson, and they go flying. It was just like, it feels like, you know, like a bull in a china shop situation. Like just
Did the fruit physics get put on display?
Oh yeah.
He kicked some guy into like a crate of oranges, and like the oranges scattered in a relatively realistic way. I was actually surprised by the details put into the oranges falling onto the ground.
Yeah, it was a nice
also
touch.
In the demo compared to the showcase, which I watched with my partner last night because I was like showing her what it was. I don't know if they like tuned it down for a showcase or if there's a setting they turned off. I do remember Yasuke decapitating like several people.
There was so much blood.
And he didn't there was blood, and he was definitely like hurting people, and he decapitated like a samurai boss he fought. But I felt like it was a little bit more brutal in our behind closed doors demo, and I'm curious to see.
It's probably like broadcast
Yeah, they just don't want to. Yeah, you can only have so many. You only want so many decapitations if you're not Mortal Kombat in your trailer.
How are you guys feeling about this game? Because for me, it kind of jumped up after seeing this of like one of my most anticipated games of the year, because it's extremely my jam. Like, it's the same way that I felt about Star Wars Outlaws when we went to Sweden to play that, Alex, where I was like, okay, let's see what this is, and I was like, okay, this world structure and everything looks right up my alley. I think that the way you can choose how you want to engage with the missions in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Select the protagonist you want to play as.
Like the protagonist, like, because sometimes I just want to be action, and other times I really want to be stealthy, and it's nice to have like a character that I can choose that's actually like pre-spec'd for that, you know?
Yeah.
And you can swap them on the fly. So it's like, oh well, like I love Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but like if I spec'd my Cassandra for action instead of stealth, it's like, okay, well, I'm not really equipped to attack this thing stealthily. I'm assuming there's going to be like separate upgrade trees for these characters and everything. I don't know, like it looks really good, man. Like, it looks really good. And Star Wars Outlaws, I didn't see the demo at the show this time around. Did you get to see that, Charles?
Yeah, I played it. I played 3 20-minute segments.
But I did not. I'm sorry to move on. I didn't get your opinion on like overall thoughts on Outlaws.
Yeah, no,
Assassins. I keep saying the wrong.
Assassin's Creed. Sorry. Yeah, I'm excited. I did last year. I played through most of the Assassin's Creed games to do like a big retrospective. So I'm like very freshly well versed in the series, and I think the two Assassins like does a lot for me in terms of like getting to play the way I want, but also like getting to try the new stuff. And like, there's a reason people have wanted them to go to Japan for so long. Like, it just makes perfect sense with all the lore of Assassin's Creed and all that stuff. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. Did you play Ghost of Tsushima?
I did. I played like the first act, and then I think I played the first act, and then I got hired at Fanbyte. So then I was like doing work stuff. But yes, I played a little bit of it.
That was maybe my favorite PS4 game. Like, it's like up there with like the first Spider-Man game for like just my game of the generation. Like, it is maybe in my top 25 games of all time. Like, that's how much I loved Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
And I came in, I mean, it was almost like going from Overwatch to Marvel Rivals, where I'm just like, all right, this is either going to be awesome or it's going to feel like a cheap imitation. And I was really impressed with Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I trust. I'm also curious to see, like, we know it's going to be like a bigger RPG, like closer to a Valhalla or an Odyssey, but I'm curious to see like how expansive that is, because I also don't want to like play this game and get like burned out on it. Like, Ghost of Tsushima is like, it's a big game, but it's not like 100 hours. I'm curious
how many hours I put into it. Sure, I think I probably put like 60 or 70 hours into Ghost.
Sure. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm curious to see what like scope does for this game, and if it like can hold me the whole way through.
Yeah, I also think so. I mean, I think the gameplay looks awesome, the scenarios, and I'm not really an Assassin's Creed guy. I kind of fell off a long time ago. But like the addition of Yasuke has really intrigued me. I think the writing is I don't know if they're going for it intentionally. The writing is kind of bad in some places. Like you select like Naui to go up to this castle, and she's like. And he's like, be careful, you'll be alone up there. And she's like, I won't be alone. I have the shadows. And I was just like, that's the stupidest line I've heard.
I love that. I was thinking it'd be like in the opening scene in Star Wars Outlaws, it's like, you can't do that. That's against the galactic code. She's like, I'm a Star Wars outlaw.
Yeah.
That's
pretty much exactly what it was.
Ellie, we really are the last of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, but gameplay wise, it looks cool. I want to play it. Yeah, we'll see. Did you get to play? You got to play the Rogue Prince of Persia, right, Charles? I know we've covered that on the show.
I did.
Previously.
Well, I did get to play. I got to play a new update for it.
Nice.
Where they were talking about game came out, and I think for a lot of people, if they had a chance to check it out, they didn't play that much of it, or they didn't really feel the need to. I do feel kind of bad because it like Prince of Persia: The Rogue to me is like that's a what's it called? That's an early access game, you know?
Yeah.
But like Hades 2 is also technically an early access game, but the amount of content that delivers to someone is like so vastly different from like your average early access experience. And Prince of Persia: The Rogue came out like the early access launched like a week or two after that. I think they like delayed it because of Hades 2. So my first run, I played it like on my own. I was like, okay, like maybe this will be good, but I didn't really click with it. And I played 3 runs here with the developer sitting right next to me, and I really felt like I got the whole like proper experience. And the update they added was like a new skill tree, or not a new skill tree, a skill tree period. There was no skill tree before.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed playing the update, and I really was like, okay, I can see how when I played this game, which I think it's already out. I think it came out this past Monday. Having played it, being like, okay, I can see myself like sinking more time into this now that there's like a proper progression system. Yeah, it feels good. It's like Dead Cells, but a little more agile, which is fun.
Nice.
What about Star Wars Outlaws? Since I've now boomeranged back to that, like, what were your overall thoughts on that?
I liked it. I'm not like 100% sold on the gameplay yet. Like as I was playing it, I was like, okay, this is another one of those. Like this is another action adventure stealth. There's vehicle combat, and it's like it's cool. It seems like I'm sure it'll be a good game, and I didn't think it was bad. There's just nothing about it to me that like stood out as particularly unique, except it is a Star Wars game, and I really like Star Wars, so I'll probably play it because of that. But I wasn't like it wasn't like a revolutionary thing for me. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of like our takeaway as well, Alex. Like we really enjoyed our time with the game when we were out in Sweden. But it wasn't like, oh, this is going to change the industry. It was just like, oh, yeah, this seems like a fun, like open world Star Wars game with some interesting mechanics at play with like the reputation system. And I don't know, like the open world seems like it's going to be, at least from what we played back in, what was it, February, March. It seems like it's going to be the kind of like gameplay loop that would hook me.
Yeah, I was all also in like on the rails like contained sections, so I am interested to see like the whole
I heard the demos
world.
Were
I got like a ship combat section, I got like a proper like infiltration mission, and then I got kind of a like Uncharted style like just exploring these old ruins. But yeah.
Well, I played a lot. I'm going through my notes here to see what I can talk about real quick. We talked about Marvel Rivals. I played a game called Lush Foil Photography Sim.
Did you like that? I also tried it and it gave me a headache.
I did like it. I think the graphic settings were whatever they were running on was not optimized for the game, and it had like a weird like DLSS filter on it that did not look good, to be honest. But like the mechanics and like of like just, I mean, it's like operating. I think like if my friends are interested in getting into photography and learning more about it, I could see recommending this game, because all but one setting is like pretty one-to-one. The ISO, the way the ISO setting behaves in the game is different than a real camera. And it could be that I was using the wrong priority mode, because like a real camera, it had like shutter priority mode, manual, aperture priority. You can adjust the shutter speed, the ISO, like I said, the white balance. You can add different lenses on. You can all sorts of steps, exposure steps. And so I was just like messing around a lot with like the manual stuff and like putting it through its paces. I think it's pretty it's pretty cool that it's like it gets very close to operating a real camera. I think like if you aren't interested in that kind of thing, there's really no game here.
Yeah.
So I should stick with Pokemon Snap is what you're telling me.
If you want a game, like a game loop, yeah. But like if you're actually interested in like learning photography and like messing around rather than going out and buying like an expensive camera, like having a digital environment to do that in. And it is relaxing and fun. But it certainly can be aimless and based on the demo that I had. But I think if they can assuming like the graphics look better because they look like had this like smearing effect, which is usually in my experience like something to do with like DLSS settings. If they can fix that, and perhaps it was just like a hardware issue, and I know running a Playday's booth sometimes you kind of just get thrown wrenches into the works.
Yeah.
I want to see more from that game, but it seems cool. It is literally a photography sim. You go explore some real life locations, like they had Mount Inari from Kyoto, Japan. They had a place in Australia, I think, a place in Italy. It was cool. I checked out Stalker 2, which is probably my most anticipated game going into Summer Game Fest, and I was pretty disappointed. I think it might be a case of like a bad demo setup.
Sure.
I was playing mouse and keyboard on like essentially a TV tray fold out dinner table. And there's no room to move the mouse. So the DPI was cranked up like crazy. And it was a very dark demo. Like it was taking place at night. And with the glare that was on the screen, I could barely see stuff happening. And I just think it was a bad demo. So I'm not going to like write the game off. But I was like, I was underwhelmed by like the mechanics, the shooting mechanics, how they felt. It was a little floaty, not quite as precise as I wanted. Again, I think I was battling. I kept switching from mouse and keyboard to controller because I just couldn't get it to feel right. And I was battling like major glare. So yeah, it was just like not a good demo.
Major glare is the boss.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's like an open world horror survival game, FPS. It's I feel like everybody has heard of Stalker 2 at this point if you're interested in that sort of genre. But yeah, I want to see more. I don't want to talk too much about it just because I was disappointed, and I feel like it was so disorienting, like my demo appointment, that like I feel like I don't even have a great grasp on the game because of the way the appointment went down. But I did play Replaced though, which was awesome. That was there under the Xbox label. And Replaced. So if people remember The Last Night, which was that cinematic pixel art game that got shown off at an Xbox showcase years and years ago. The creator of it said some wild things publicly, kind of got, I think, canceled or something. And then this game kind of popped up, totally different team, but like similar vibe, and people kind of latched onto it. It's like, oh, we can still get that cinematic pixel art platformer action game. And this game looks amazing, feels awesome. The combat is similar to like a Arkham situation where like your Y is your counter button, your B is your heavy attack, X is light attack, and you're kind of managing incoming attacks from enemies, using your attacks to bypass their defenses, like using your heavy attack against shielded enemies. Well, like you're playing as like it's all set in like a cyberpunk setting. And so like your heavy is technically like this, like it like melts through the enemy shield, and you have a gun as well that you can use. But in order to build up ammo, you have to attack people with your fists.
Yeah, I forgot that I did see somebody playing. Like, I was waiting to go into another demo, and I got to look over somebody's shoulder while they were playing it. It is visually impressive.
Yeah, it is. They're doing a mixture of 3D assets and 2D pixel art, and it all looks really stunning. And I will say the story premise seems like a cool setup. Typically, I feel like with like cyberpunk things, like people are all about like making their augmentations, and it's like, really embracing that. This game centers around an AI that has become locked in a human's body and can feel all of the emotions of a human, and absolutely
I'm so sorry.
does not want to feel it. They hate it, and they want to go back to just being a normal AI. And so the game is about like them trying to get out of this human body, which I think is a cool setup.
I get it. I really do, man.
Yeah.
I understand.
So I got to play a section like it definitely oscillates between combat. Everything was set up in 3 separate pillars from the main menu. So there was a prologue. There was a place called it was like a train station that acted as like a trading hub. And there was no combat there. It was like more adventure game style stuff. And then there was a combat section. It was just like a wave-based combat challenge. You could see kind of all of the various aspects of the game in these disparate demos. But I walked away really impressed by Replaced. What else did I play? Oh, 2 of my favorite things I can't talk about yet. My 2 favorite games of Summer Game Fest I can't talk about.
Wow.
I can't talk about Hyper Light Breaker. I played that. I enjoyed it. I think the targeting system, I feel like I was battling that a bit, but like I really like the concept of like doing these open world runs as a Hyper Light Breaker. The character designs were awesome. I enjoyed like going to the shops before each run and buying, loading. Okay, do I want to go with like a pistol? Do I want to get like more of something like an assault rifle? What kind of melee weapon do I want? Do I want like a pinwheel axe, like Bloodborne style, like axe that like spins, or do I want like just like more of a sword, and there's like a hoverboard you can use. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I really like Heart Machine's games, and I think I'm really gonna like this one once I get the handle on the targeting system and the controls. But everything's procedural, so like you're going in and fighting, you're essentially wiping out smaller like elite mobs to then unlock bosses that are in like floodgated arenas, like Dark Souls style. And it's all procedural in terms of like the environment and where things are placed. And in order to escape the world, I had to like activate this pillar, that this shrine that shot up like almost like this waypoint in the sky that I had to run to. And as I was like trying to close out this level, I was being chased by this like really hard assassin who was like dead set on like trying to kill me before I could escape the level. So that there's a lot of cool things going on with Hyper Light Breaker. I want to see more.
Yeah, I loved Hyper Light Drifter.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. So I think it's going to be interesting. I played Neva from Devolver Digital, from specifically Nomada Studio, the team behind Grease. And that game's really cool. It's a lot more action oriented than I thought. You play as a white-haired swordswoman who has like a fairly robust set of attacks that just feel really intuitive, and I didn't really need to pay attention to tooltips or anything like that. It just feels like if you've played like a 2D action sword fighting game, you can just kind of pick it up and go. And it was pretty challenging. The game centers around this wolf family, who after some tragedy, this woman ends up with this wolf. The cub is named Neva, and that's who the game centers around. But you play as Alba, who is the wolf's companion and kind of caretaker. And throughout the game, the wolf grows older and older and learns new abilities. And
so you can teach an old dog new tricks.
More like a young dog. But yes, you can. That's a funny joke. And so the game is told through seasons. So I think I started in summer and my demo, it was missing some core cutscenes and areas, but like after I got done with the demo, I was like, okay, so will the next one then, will it proceed to the next season after this demo? And they're like, yeah. And the dog will, you know, grow a little older, look a little different. And so it's really a story about, you know, kind of parenthood. There's a lot of I think the creative director had a child during the making of Grease and wanted to focus on that theme with this game. So yeah, themes of companionship, parenthood. It's really gorgeous looking. Very much inspired by Princess Mononoke from Studio Ghibli. There was some Spirited Away in there. The enemies kind of look like No Face from Spirited Away. Particularly,
so you must have been all about that then, because you're Mr. Studio Ghibli.
Yeah. So it looks really cool. I'm excited to play more. And I think it comes out this year, so that'll be neat. I'm trying to see what else I played.
That was a trailer like at SGF when I saw one of the ones where I was like, oh, video games, baby.
Yeah.
I was really excited to see that. Like, not expecting it at all. Kind of the exact kind of thing I want from one of these showcases of like, oh, I remember that exists, but I wasn't excited for it because I hadn't thought about it in so long, just being reminded of it. And I was like, okay, I'm so into that. I have 2 more games I can talk about real quick. I played Skate Story, which I know there's a lot of games with skate in the name that have come out lately. There was Hellskate, there's Skate Story, there's Skate Sim, there's
Skate,
there's Skate, there's Session, a skateboarding sim. There's a lot.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skate.
Yep. For people who have forgotten what that is, or maybe you haven't even seen it, while I always confuse this one with Hellskate, Skate Story, the one I played at Summer Game Fest, you play as a skateboarding demon who wants to devour the moon, and you are fighting against celestial bodies and dealing with like philosophical questions. Like literally there is like, you are like collecting philosophy pages in one section of this game while performing kickflips and ollies. It's a very strange game. The soundtrack rips. They have a band. I talked to Sam, who's the developer. It's pretty much solo developer. Blood Cultures is the band that is doing the music in the game. So it's going to be a combination of licensed music from Blood Cultures as well as some original tracks, and it whips. It is killer. But you're essentially going through like these very ethereal, linear hallways, doing ollies to avoid spikes, doing tricks to fight bosses. Like your skateboard has supernatural powers, so when you do flips,
this is Skate Story.
This is Skate Story. Yeah. And so you're just like fighting. I fought like this giant like orbiting, flying like sculpture of, I don't know if it was Play-Doh, but he like locked me in like essentially his mind palace and prevented me from devouring the sun, and I had to pass his tests to escape and devour the sun or devour the moon.
Were they like
it's a weird game,
3, or were they like you have to do a kickflip over this gap?
Say the first part again.
So was it like you must solve my riddles 3, or was it like you must do a kickflip over this gap?
A kind of a combination of both.
Okay.
Mostly the latter.
Whatever that means.
You can like get off your skateboard and run around and interact with things too.
Okay.
There's like more that you kind of get like spit out into more open, quote, like I guess like skate parks, and there's like secrets and stuff you can unlock by doing tricks, and then you kind of get threaded back into these like more linear chunks. It's a weird game. I think Blake Hester would love this game if he was still with us at Game Informer.
And he'll probably still love it.
Yeah, he probably will still enjoy it.
He is still alive, so
yeah,
probably
if he was still with us.
Yeah, this is like one of those games I think like the Jacob Gellers of the world are really gonna like. I enjoyed it, and the developer was super nice, and I was just I could tell he's like very proud of the game, and it's really cool. So I recommend checking it out if that sounds interesting to you. Last game I played was Battle Aces, which is a 10-minute mostly automated real-time strategy game by Uncapped Games, former developers who have worked on StarCraft and Warcraft. And it is a mostly multiplayer game. There's no campaign. You can play against AIs if you want, but it's set up to be like, matchups with other people, and either 1v1 or 2v2s. And it gets rid of a lot of the intricacies of real-time strategy games, and really focuses on just the army building and combat. And I like the concept of it more than the execution. I think it will have an audience, but for like a real-time strategy fan, as a real-time strategy fan, I really do like the minutia of like building the walls around my base, selecting, building farms so that I have enough money or that I have enough resources to build my armies up. A lot of those things are automated in this game. So if you are interested in real-time strategy games and that kind of stuff has put you off in the past, and you just kind of want to like mash your armies together to fight, you can do that. And so that is a cool aspect of it. I think I'm worried that the game is going to be too complicated for their target audience and not complicated enough for RTS fans.
That's what I've heard. The vibe I heard from some other people was like, as an RTS fan, I like RTSs, and this is a little less than that. But as someone who doesn't play RTSs personally, I haven't really. I mean, maybe I can try it and I'll see if my opinion changes. But it has yet to like speak to me in a way that like some more established RTS hasn't.
Yeah, yeah. I think the enemy designs and the units are cool, and the way that you like compile you pretty much have like a deck of, you make your army before you load into the match, and there is some complexity there and some interesting stuff there. I just worry it's like a little one note. Art style's cool. I really like the anime trailer they posted as like their cinematic trailer was really cool. I'm like, y'all should make a Battle Aces anime because that looks sick. So yeah, I'm interested to see more from that game. I'm not completely sold on it. We'll see what happens. But those are the games I played at Summer Game Fest. Anything else y'all want to talk on before we get out of here?
I think I covered my bases.
Yeah,
I think we covered quite a bit of ground in this episode.
Yeah, it's funny because we still aren't done. We just can't talk about everything yet.
Yeah.
And like I said, two of my two favorite games from the showcase, from the play days that I played, I can't talk about yet. And one of them is like, it's so good.
Was that the one I saw too?
That one's really good. There's another that I like better, like a little more. But those
this is
two
what
are
we
my
in the
favorite.
industry call a tease.
A tease, yes. Well, that's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you all for sticking with us. It's kind of like just throwing everything at the wall that we played. Hope you enjoyed hearing our thoughts. Stay tuned. Next week we'll be diving into even more because I think embargoes will be up. But that was a lot of fun. I'm exhausted. I'm excited to go eat lunch and take a quick nap. But thank you all for listening and watching. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share it with a friend, leave us a review. And if you really want to support us, you can get a print magazine subscription delivered to your U.S. address, GameInformer.com/magazine, or you can go to subscribe.GameInformer.com and pick one up. It really helps us keep the lights on and helps us keep doing this show. So you everybody. Brian, Charles, thank you for joining me. Thank you, listeners. We will see you all next Thursday. Goodbye.